All right,
Hi, everyone.
we are live.
Happy Tuesday.
Happy Tuesday. We are catching up for Zappadan Nite 14, so we're going to do album number 2. Frank Zappa and the Mothers of Invention, a Dada masterpiece,
Absolutely. Even the cover tells you that.
absolutely free. And to make a joke to my good friend Brett Doherty, who unfortunately dropped the body this year, when I ordered this album from him at the record store, he said, "You still got to pay for it."
That was like such a dad joke,
I know.
but it's pretty good.
Waka, waka, waka.
I do love a good pun, so
Yeah.
it fits.
All right. First of all, let's start with this wonderful packaging.
Yeah.
So this album is packaged sideways. You get a gatefold sleeve, and it opens this away.
It reminds me of like old newsprints that like my grandparents used to keep.
Absolutely.
It's really
it does.
cool.
I forget this guy's name, but he was briefly in the Mothers for a minute, and he was their second guitar player.
Oh, really?
And he didn't make it to the record. He certainly isn't
Is he
credited.
alive?
I think he's still around.
Did he make it in a biblical sense?
Oh, yeah, he made it in a biblical sense.
Okay.
I think his name's Jim. Jim something.
Cool.
But anyway, we got some great pictures of the original Mothers here. We got Jimmy Carl Black, the drummer. I got to meet him. I shook his hand. Roy Estrada, child molester. He's now in jail. Bass player. Ray Collins, vocalist. Wonderful guy. Billy Mundy, percussionist. Let's see, is Gardner on the cover here? And then let's see. We've also got Don Preston on keyboards, Bunk Gardner on woodwinds, and Motorhead Sherwood also on woodwinds. This is the classic Mothers.
Mm-hmm.
This is the beginning of the classic Mothers of Invention. Sophomore album, and I would say a big step up. We're washed out.
We are very washed out. I was going to say it's very bright in my face. Should I try to readjust or?
Huh.
I look like really pale. See?
Hmm.
Let me adjust the lighting. You can
Perhaps.
keep talking.
All right. All right, so this was recorded in 1966, but it wasn't released until 1967. Oh, that's a lot
Is that better? It's more ambient. Oh my God, I look like a person. I'm a little like wash out there, but
Oh, well.
oh well. Here we are.
All right, what can we say about this? It's credited as a series of underground oratorios. And for those of you who don't know what an oratorio is, it is a short-form opera. That is to say, a story told through music.
Agreed, and I definitely agree that it is an oratorio. Frank did a lot of other concept albums. We've reviewed a couple on Zappadan. We just did Joe's Garage. And this one, I think, is more thematic to me. It has a lot of intertwining themes, and I think it talks a lot about freedom, which is in the title, but what it means to be free and when are you truly free, even in the moments when you think you're free, when you're not actually free.
And that's a precious and recurring theme throughout Zappa's career, this
Mm-hmm.
notion of freedom.
Agreed. And that ties into, I love talking about the project object. It's one of my favorite things that Frank ever did, which is everything that he did.
Right.
But I love, just, if I might finish that thought, I just
Totally.
love that he talks about freedom, and then he talks about the idea of that there's always something that you're doing that's illegal. Everybody does something that's illegal. Well, if everybody's doing something that's illegal, then they're guilty of a crime, and that is synonymous with the opposite of freedom, which is imprisonment in some way. So I just think that's an interesting theme.
Oh, I like that. This is also part of the birth of the project object, where you have a lot of stuff going on here in the album art. I'm really happy to say I had this on vinyl. A very old, crappy copy. I think I got this for $2 at some used record store in St. Louis. So there you go. Lots of stuff about materialism, rejecting consumerism. It starts with Underground Oratorio number 1, Absolutely Free. kicking off with Plastic People, a riff off of Louie Louie, which is a song Zappa would perennially return to throughout his career.
Mm-hmm.
What's your take on Plastic People?
Plastic People is a song that talks about, it has a lot of mentions of the aesthetic shallowness. So he talks about, painting plasticity and painting your hair and dyeing it and doing your nails and kind of everything that comes along with like painting yourself up to be somebody else. But I think sometimes, and I think people have found a way, when the song came out, when it was written, it was synonymous. And Frank talked about this on other albums with, the girl from the Madison Avenue girl, that you're tied to this ideal of what people are supposed to look like, your ideal woman. And that's very chaining. And I think it's interesting in recent times that people have actually like used that stuff to kind of express who they are. Things like makeup and dyeing your hair and body modification. So it's kind of interesting to see how that's evolved over time. And there is, of course, that blonde hair, blue-eyed, done-up person that's like, the supermodel. But there's also kind of people taking that as a tool for self-expression. What are your thoughts on Absolutely Free?
Plastic People?
Or Plastic People.
Well, Plastic People itself was inspired by the riots that happened on the Sunset Strip in 1967. And the idea of plasticity and wondering who the fake people are in your community, then saying you wonder and you think it's these other people, but it's actually you. That's a very Zappa idea to subvert the notion of satire by saying, look at the very institutions that are in charge of you and you let them rule you. You're buying into the system. This is Frank at his most anti-authoritarian, but also with a Dada streak of humor that is both charming, endearing, and relative to the rest of his career, which is marked with cynicism, almost uncharacteristic,
right.
Saying that everything else might get bought up by plasticity, but one thing that won't is love. And he challenges the idea of like a relationship, saying, she puts plastic goop in her hair. And this totally gives birth to his lifelong assault on Western notions of beauty.
Mm-hmm.
And then that relates also to the lyrics in Duke of Prunes,
right?
The following track. Now that we talked about when it was an instrumental on Orchestral Favorites,
right?
Which is a fantastic arrangement. It's one of my favorite Zappa
Mine too.
tunes.
And I think I might like it better on that than on Absolutely Free.
Absolutely.
If I may be honest.
But here on Absolutely Free, it's a mock love song.
It is.
In fact, it's those fake, cheap rhyming lyrics. Moon, June.
Oh yeah, my love will grow and grow and grow.
I think.
Yeah.
So it subverts the idea of the love song while also giving a pretty bad example of it. Ray Collins, I think, sings beautifully.
He does, and the melody is very pretty, and it's very like. It's funny because whenever I hear this song, I do picture like a Shakespearean actor singing this to a woman in a window, like.
Yeah.
Like it's.
I got to stop saying absolutely when we're talking about.
I know it's so easy to fall into that, but it's
totally.
Extremely, incredibly,
very,
ultimately.
I concur. See how close you can get next time.
It's a very poetic and beautiful song. But it is funny that it's like an almost love song.
Yeah, we get this segue through the Amnesia Vivace sequence into Frank taking the lead there with, and you'll be my Duchess of Prunes.
Right.
Again, subverting the idea of like bar chatter. In Amnesia Vivace, Ray Collins is heard saying talking like he's talking to audience members.
Right.
Before they were the mothers, when they were the soul giants, and even when they were the mothers, they earned their chops playing at hotel bars, playing at lounges, playing R&B for a pretty mixed audience. Sometimes white crowds who would request very different songs than what they were used to playing. So some of that is what comes through here, and we'll talk about it later with the end of the album, with the bar chatter that happens there, but that's a throwback too also.
Right.
So So there's not really an intentionally wasted second here. The amnesia vivace sequence might seem like something to skip over in terms of analysis, but there is some stuff worth talking about. Melodically, it's the birth of Frank doing classical composition, the way it's orchestrated. The Duke regains his chops as a reprise of the Duke of Prunes.
Right, which I love that he chose to do a reprise of a song that sounds very theatrical on the album. I think that like lends itself very well to like have him kind of come back and do it again.
Well, it must have been fun to see live.
Yeah.
There clearly was some stuff meant to happen on stage. The libretto is not in the LP. For some reason, Verve wouldn't print it, and it's still not in the CD. And I don't know if it's available to read anywhere. Perhaps a global Zappa fan could help. I don't know if the libretto is available to read at all. I'm sure the amnesia vivace sequence was meant to be appreciated visually.
Right.
And this was part of what they were performing live during their run at the Garrick Theater in New York City in 1967. This was a legendary time in Zappa's career.
Right. Colony Vegetable?
Well, the last thing I want to say about The Duke Regains His Chops is you get meta commentary when it builds into the coda. Frank says, "This is the exciting part." He steps outside. He breaks the fourth wall. He's talking to you directly, the listener, telling you what to expect. And no one was doing that at the time. No one was doing that in 1967 or 66 when that was recorded. Defying expectations and shattering the parameters of the recording itself.
Right.
And then it starts with the next track, more meta commentary. This is a song about vegetables. They keep you regular. They're real good for you. Call Any Vegetable. This is a favorite of mine. It's real goofy, real fun.
It's super goofy. And I wonder, because I know later on the album, he makes a crack about ketchup being a vegetable, because at one point in time, it was designated that...
On Broadway the Hard Way.
Oh, right.
By the Reagan administration.
Right, that ketchup is a vegetable. So it's kind of interesting that he's now doing a song about call any vegetable, call it by name, and he just kind of mentions a bunch of vegetables.
A prune is not a vegetable.
Prune is not a vegetable.
A throwback to the previous suite of songs.
Right.
But cabbage is a vegetable, makes it okay.
Mm-hmm. It's just a fun tune. I think it's just kind of meant to be fun.
I'm sure there's some hidden layers of commentary here about calling vegetables, but whatever. It is a fun song, a blistering musical performance.
Agreed.
And then it goes into the Invocation Dance, which is a fantastic guitar solo by Frank.
It's really good.
This is the first time we really hear Frank rip on his guitar.
I like the crunchy tone that he gets. It's really nice.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
There's some good guitar stuff on Trouble Every Day on Freak Out, but other than that, really not much.
Yeah.
Then it goes into the Soft Cell Conclusion, which is a spoken word bit by Frank over a pretty laid-back rock groove by the Mothers. And it's funny. It's pretty dada about, well, a lot of people have trepidations about being friends with vegetables, and they wonder, well, what could they talk about? And then that's what he goes into.
Right.
I don't know. It's fun.
I think it's just meant to be fun.
For sure.
Yeah. And this is the end of side A, right?
That sure is.
Okay. Anything else before we jump to side B?
On the CD, it's punctuated by Big Leg Emma and Why Don't You Do Me Right, an A-B side single from 1967. I'm not too impressed by Big Leg Emma.
I don't like this song.
It's not even a great musical performance.
It's not a great musical performance, and I find the lyrics to be really shitty. He's basically like, I used to date this girl, and then she got unattractive to me, and now I don't date her anymore. And that's like it.
And Why Don't You Do Me Right, I think it was another divorce tune.
I agree with you there. I was thinking about that as I was re-listening to the album a few days ago. I was like, I feel like this was right around when he was getting divorced.
Good vocal performance, though.
It's really good. You can hear it in the vocals, but the song itself is like kind of drab to me.
It's very one note.
Yeah.
All right, and then side B opens with the MOI America pageant. America Drinks. You get some fake cocktail jazz going on with Ray Collins as the MC.
Mm-hmm.
Again, another throwback to their stint as a lounge band. Anything else we want to say about this?
Not really. This one kind of passes me by.
All right, well, let's go for it into Status Back Baby. This is about a teenager who's concerned about where they stand with their peers at high school.
Yeah. Something everybody can relate to. Literally every person who's gone to public high school or private high school, any high school.
Could you be a dear and translate that French from the Debussy there?
It says the girl with the thin hair or the long hair.
And then Petrushka. So this quotes Petrushka by Stravinsky and that Debussy piece.
Which is pretty cool. And he's done that before. He did The Rites of Spring.
Oh, yeah. He would go on to do that on Cruising with Ruben and the Jets.
Right. I keep thinking, like, we're not doing this chronologically, so I keep the time is escaping me. I'm like, what came first?
That is one of the fun things about Zappa.
You never give me your money. Yeah. Yeah. We're only in it for the money. Did I say you never give me your money?
Yeah. Oh, boy.
It's been a long day.
I belong to D. Mole. Then we get Uncle Bernie's Farm. A song about violent toys. America's obsession with violent toys.
Mm-hmm. Which is something that's still pervasive today and is still talked about by every local news anchor across the country. Violent toys.
Mm-hmm.
Violent memes.
But then there's a plastic Congress, a nation you can buy. I like that line.
Me too.
It's pretty punk stuff here as far as the commentary and what's being spat upon.
Mm-hmm.
Then it goes into Susie Cream Cheese. What's got into you? There's some neat musical stuff going on there where the yeahs are stretched up by going from 6/8, 7/8, 8/8,
which is super cool.
Pretty
that
neat
adds a
stuff.
neat touch. Yeah, I mean, this one
it quotes Louie Louie.
This song, it does also. I was going to say that it also quotes Louie Louie, but this one does not. It also kind of passes me by. I think the name Susie Cream Cheese is hilarious. There was an old vintage store that I loved in DC that I think is now defunct called Susie Cream Cheese, which I loved.
No doubt named after it.
Yeah. So, yeah, all kinds of good stuff.
This one warrants discussion.
So Brown Shoes Don't Make It is the next song, and it has very obvious themes of incest and childhood sexual abuse.
Right, so content warning. This is going to get a little gross.
Yeah, so...
The song itself is about a politician who, in his fantasies alone, dreams of getting it on with his daughter.
Yeah. Which is nasty and wrong.
Right, on all levels. But he dreams of his political aspirations and continuing his career, including making it to the White House. Now, musically, this is a great song. And it talks about consumerism and the thought of, like, what really is success, TV dinner by the pool, what the American dream really is. This is a great song.
It is.
This is a touchstone in Zappa's career. Trouble Every Day was a fantastic statement on his debut record. This is a bold step ahead.
And it kind of is like, and that's part of Frank Zappa's catalog, I think, is if you can get over that he's saying something in a crass way, or that he's saying something that sounds gross to you at first, and think about what he's actually saying, you'll realize that so much of this is true and does happen and happens even now. I mean, we have a president in the White House who
we live in the Pacific Northwest, and, like, this region's been rocked by sex scandals. We've had a mayor involved in a sex scandal. We've had political consultants involved in a sex scandal. The mayor of Seattle involved in a sex scandal.
And we have a president.
And we now have a president
right.
embroiled in a sex scandal.
Right. And the president himself has made inappropriate comments about his own daughter. So it is, it's gross and it's obviously unsavory, but it's kind of something that I think Frank was trying to wake people up to, is that these people that are corrupt and that have corrupt laws and are perverted are most likely perverted behind closed doors too.
Right. And in all of those cases, they involved underage minors with these politicians.
Right. So
this is a very real thing. And be a loyal plastic robot to a world that doesn't care. And then it talks about the people who are in charge, that there's a world of secret hungers perverting those folks, that they live in a world of repression, and that the power allows them to pursue those perversions. And in the song, he explores this disgusting fantasy.
Yeah.
Musically, it's a fantastic suite. It's like 19 different mini pieces. It's a lot like a quick one while he's away by the Who.
Definitely.
Whereas this construction of mini songs, although in this case it's even tinier constructs.
Yeah, it'll have like a nice shuffle, and then it'll go into more of like a sing-songy part.
One part's even a musical crab canon, which is a musical piece where it's like a palindrome where it starts and it's the same way backwards after the midpoint.
Yeah.
A lot of neat stuff happens. There's a passage that quotes Little Deuce Coupe. What's your takeaway of Brown Shoes Don't Make It? It's an awesome track. What's your my final impression of it?
I mean, it's a really good song musically. I love songs that kind of change it up a bit and don't fall into the same patterns. I think this one is one that does that if you're into like following different themes. And I think what he was trying to say, the message that he's conveying, again, if you can get past like, oh, that's so gross, I can't listen to this. Like, sometimes I think it's really important to be confronted with the truth, and the truth is sometimes disgusting. Often it is disgusting, especially when it comes to American politics. So I think Frank was trying to comment on something that does happen, is perverted, but shouldn't be just turned away from because you're immediately like, oh, that's gross, I can't handle that. Like, these people exist, they are perverted, they are wrong, they exist today, they hold offices today. Think of how many people just in the last year have been accused of, and of sexual assault or of some kind of misconduct or harassment. Like, it's happening. These people exist.
Absolutely. We keep saying absolutely.
Free. Okay. Anything else you want to say?
Well, this was the first time Frank explored ugly truths and really looked at it up close and personal.
True.
And he allowed the music to provide an ample backdrop to those explorations. And it is at times a harrowing listen, but ultimately it's very rewarding. It's a classic Zappa tune, and it would predict things to come in terms of his subject matter and what he would explore later on in his career. Then we get the concluding track of America Drinks and Goes Home, a reprise of the opening from side B. And in it, we've got background noise featuring Terry Gilliam, who would later join Monty Python. But also it ends with bar chatter, with Ray Collins talking about, oh yeah, we'll do that next time. Oh, all right, take care.
Yeah.
Leave your lights on. You can't sleep here. You don't have to go home. That kind of chatter. And it's meant to pull you out of the darkness of Brown Shoes Don't Make It. And what's your take from it? It gives me kind of a Sgt. Pepper or Magical Mystery Tour type vibe.
Yeah, I was going to say something similar, is that I actually really like that he kind of bookends the album with this sort of chatter. Is you get it in the beginning or towards the beginning, and then you get it at the end. And it kind of wakes you up, especially after hearing a song like Brown Shoes Don't Make It that's a little bit disturbing. I think ending with America Drinks and Goes Home and having this kind of like...
And what a title.
Yeah, right. Which I also love the title of the song, and how fitting that is because like...
It's sort of the collective response to all of this.
Exactly.
To plasticity, to the gross people in City Hall.
Right.
To what's being sold to our children.
And
everything
and even
that gets covered in this album.
And what you do when you go to a concert is you show up and you drink and you listen and then you go home.
Is it any different now than it was then? Only instead of Perry Como, it's the National? Or...
I love the National. But yes, you're right. And I love that it bookends the album. I think the chatter is cool. I think it kind of creates the fantasy, and it sets the scene for what he was trying to show.
The National's okay. But yeah, this is a great album. It's not meant to be listened to as a rock record. It's a thematic piece. I would say, if anything, kind of like Lumpy Gravy, it's meant to be listened to as side A and side B. The tracks all do segue together. What would you say about it in terms of listenability, its importance relative to Zappa's catalog?
Oh, it's 100% important to Frank's catalog.
How so?
I think we talked about it being a Dada piece earlier, and I think Frank was an artist.
Truly.
In
like
every sense.
It deploys nonsense humor.
Right. And I think this is what you have to look. I believe that you have to look at Absolutely Free as a holistic piece. It's, when you're looking at a track by track, it's like, it doesn't have ones that you can pull out as easily. Lots of the other, Peaches and Regalia and Watermelon and Easter Hay. And
right. No one's ever like, oh, that's the one with Amnesia Vivace on it.
Yeah, you don't think about it like that. And you don't really want to there are other albums that I'll want to pull out songs and just listen to that one song. But
it is the one with Brown Shoes Don't Make It on it.
That's true. But I think in general, with Absolutely Free, it is a holistic body of work that should be appreciated as a full album. And I think that's what Frank intended is
absolutely.
You have all these.
You need to like shock words. Me or something. I concur.
Yeah, it's look at it like any Dada work of art. It's collage art, but in
represented
audio.
Even on the cover.
Exactly. That's me.
I love the album. I think it's a critical piece of work. I also want to say that I would classify it in this category of Zappa albums where on first listen, you don't necessarily love it.
Okay.
When I first heard it, it didn't sit well with me. Part of it was Brown Shoes Don't Make It. The other part was it wasn't a collection of songs in the way that Freak Out was, and it wasn't quite as satisfying in the way that We're Only in It for the Money was,
right? In
my mind. So it took a couple of listens to really appreciate the humor on it and to understand, like, it's okay to laugh at the stupid nature of it. It's not a serious rock record, and I was 13 when I first heard it, and it was an opportunity to challenge my notion of what an album is, and how to really critically think about a record, and to recognize that rock does not have to be a serious thing, even though the serious points are made on this album, to embrace also the nonsense ideas presented on it.
I agree.
All right, so we're going to wind up for this video. We're going to do another one, but we have to listen to the album first. We also have to select it. And we will be back with that in 35 to 47 minutes.
Thanks, all.